Take it away, Melody. Good morning. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is the real, truth is in the talk, and there is power and truth. And my partner was shushing me when
I don't do it very often. I just do it to get you going.
I know you do. Well, just for that, happy International Women's Day. You know, that's what's going on today, and I guess we were supposed to wear purple. I did not wear purple. I wore blue and brown. Can I just say one
thing or two?
Sure.
Grief.
Was that about my singing or about International Women's Day?
International Women's Day. But go ahead.
All right, I'm going to go ahead with this because I'm going to irritate her, so I'm going to go ahead with it. These are 10 facts about International Women's Day, and I want you to listen very carefully. Number one, International Women's Day is largely aimed at inspiring women across the world and celebrating their achievements. Number two, its roots are in the movements campaigning for better pay and voting rights. Number three, listen carefully to this one. The first National Women's Day was marked on the 28th of February, 1909 in the United States after a declaration by the Socialist Party of America. Number four, during an international conference of working women in Copenhagen back in 1910, Clara Zetkin, leader of the Women's Office of the Social Democratic Party in Germany, suggested the idea of International Women's Day. She proposed that every year in every country there should be a celebration on the same day. The idea was met with unanimous approval. Number five, in 1911, they saw International Women's Day honored for the first time in Australia, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland on March 19th. Over 1 million people attended rallies campaigning for women's rights to work, vote, be trained, to hold public office, and end discrimination. Number six, on the eve of World War I, campaigning for peace, Russian women observed their first International Women's Day on the last Sunday in February of 1913, and in 1965 it was declared as a non-working day in the USSR. Number seven, International Women's Day was transferred to March 8th that same year and has remained the global date for the event ever since. And in 1975, the United Nations gave official sanction to International Women's Day and began sponsoring it. And the IWD, which is International Women's Day, is also an official holiday in 15 countries, including China, Ukraine, and Vietnam. Number 10, and the final one in this little segment, or this part of it, this year's theme is Press for Progress, and you should hashtag Press for Progress. So there you have it. But I thought number 3 was very interesting, that it was a declaration by the Socialistic Party of America. So women, I guess you know that's where your rights are coming from the Socialistic Party of America. And did you play Barbie doll? Did you have a Barbie doll when you were growing up?
I had dolls, yes.
Did you have a Barbie doll?
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Oh, you poor girl. You didn't have a Barbie doll.
No, I didn't.
Barbie doll came out, and I wanted one really bad. I think I got mine when I was like 12. Go ahead.
I wasn't spoiled.
No, well, neither was I, but I had a Barbie doll.
Actually, I was.
The Barbie doll was beneath you, I guess. Well, Mattel is coming out with 17 new role model Barbies to honor National Women's Day. And I know, now it says here that to honor National Women's Day, which is today, well, on Wednesday it said, Mattel was unveiled a collection. So yesterday they unveiled their collection of 17 Barbie dolls. And these Barbie dolls, just a few of them, are inspiring women's series, including gymnastic champion Gabby Douglas, Polish journalist Martina, and I can't pronounce the last name, Wojciechowska, the NSA mathematician, which I think is a great one. You mentioned that you had seen this movie. The physicist Katherine Johnson, she was on Hidden Figures. Mm-hmm. And the aviation pioneer, Amelia Earhart.
I wanted to talk about her today.
I have something on her today, too. So look at that. We're just clicking. Well, so they've got all these Barbie dolls. Now, I've got granddaughters, and they've got Barbie dolls. I've got one granddaughter that's got like 60-some Barbie dolls, because you don't just get a Barbie doll and dress her up as different things anymore. You get the different Barbie dolls who do different things. Mattel's a genius when it comes to marketing. You know, I would kind of like to have the Amelia Earhart one. I think that's kind of a neat one. Anyway, my Barbie doll, my mother really got into my Barbie doll. We didn't buy a lot of Barbie doll clothes, but she made them. My mother liked to sew. And my mother was a registered nurse, so my Barbie doll had the white nurse's uniform, and Mom made the blue cape that came around, and she fixed the little hat. My mother was a registered nurse. She always wore her hat. And so I had that. She made a little skating outfit for her. She made a hula skirt for her. She made all kinds of formals, a wedding dress, just all kinds of things for my little Barbie doll. And, of course, she came with a bathing suit. That's all they came with back in that day, just a bathing suit. My Barbie doll did not have a ponytail. She was a little auburn. Had a little short bubble hair.
And the point? The point is?
She was sophisticated. My Barbie doll was sophisticated. Just saying. I had one Barbie doll. And, that was one thing, I've talked about. I lost my home in a fire. And that is one thing that I lost that I really, really treasured. And that was that crazy little Barbie doll. But it was because of all the clothes that my mother had sewn for this Barbie doll. She had a pretty little turquoise green sweater vest. My mother, Melody, knitted that sweater vest with toothpicks. So, anyway, I miss my little Barbie doll. And anybody wants to get me an Amelia Earhart Barbie doll, I'll be okay with that.
Well, the only comment,
they didn't have Wonder Woman on there. Should have had Wonder Woman on there. But
there's only two comments I have to say. I'm sure they don't have any Barbie dolls that are shown as mothers or housekeepers.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Wives.
You're absolutely right.
And it's that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing to be in a woman today, and that's where women should be. I do believe women should still, but hey, we can't have a woman in the household because things cost too much. It's all by design.
She's got to be out there and work.
Be out there working, and this is what has been they've been conditioned in order to believe that they're and that's why I was going to bring up Amelia Earhart, because, if a woman wants to do something, she's going to do it.
Absolutely.
If she has the brains, the will, the desire, she's going to do it, just as Amelia Earhart. And funds don't help. Coming from wealthy families don't help. You don't have to work. You can just go fly planes around the world. But anyway, so, if women want to do it, they can do it. And, I don't think, and there's some very strong professional women that have excelled. Michelle Bachmann, whether you like her or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even Palin. These are some, you can dislike them if you want. But they have proven themselves, and they've been able to get out there and work and do what they love to do. And so more power to them.
Melody, you're a businesswoman. You started your business. You have been doing this for over 20-some years. I admire you for what you've done. You've made a living at it. You've done very well. You may not be a rich woman, but you've done very well. And, they don't esteem being a mother. I still believe that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And unfortunately, those hands that are supposed to be rocking the cradle are doing everything else, wearing little pink hats and protesting in the streets when they have nothing really to protest about in this country. And Amelia Earhart, she was a pioneer in her day, and not to demean anything, because I think a woman can do anything they want to do, just like a man can. But I watched Tucker Carlson last night.
I don't think we need to compare women with men and saying that all women can do what men do. I know I can't.
No.
And there are some things that men can't do that women do. So again, it is. I can see the socialism. I can see the breakdown of the family unit. And, they need it. And, I'm going to go back and say this. We know where she's going with this. If we hadn't taken us off the gold standard, we wouldn't have the inflation. I love going to antique stores and picking up the old magazines in the 40s and 50s and 60s, the posts, and you can see the prices beginning to rise, and articles, huge articles written about housewives, and they're complaining that now all of a sudden their hamburger costs are 49 cents instead of 19 cents, and you could see the inflation begin to come into play in the costs of everything. Heck, I can remember looking at little sports cars when I was in high school, $3,400 brand new. Now they're $50,000.
I know.
And that's just not supply and demand, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's not.
It is the devaluation of our currency. It takes more of those dollars to buy because the value is less. And so, kudos to women. I support that. And I've worked in positions.
Oh, yeah.
Where I went for a job, and I know a man got it over me. It's like what I say all the time. Grow up, deal with it, and
move on.
Take the lesson, and what could you have done differently to maybe competed with that man? And it's just not men that I've been discriminated against. In my career, I was in banking, I was in insurance before I did discount gold and silver, and so those were tough industries back in the 50s. I was hired because of my looks. I've been through all that, but it made me a better person because you reflect on those and you adjust and you do what needs to be done so it doesn't happen again. So when I hear these women out there crying boo-hoo-hoo, because I'm not getting paid the same as a man, well, leave and go someplace else if you don't like it. And I agree, wages, you have to earn your wages. You shouldn't just be given but you can say that with men too. But the whole idea that men used to make more was because they were the single breadwinner.
Right.
So, anyway.
Well, and I wanted to move on, but I wanted to say one more thing. They've started a series.
Barbie dolls for.
I'm not talking about Barbie dolls anymore. I'm talking about the women's movement. And I'm a woman, you're a woman. We believe in being strong and independent and that a woman can do anything she wants to, and nothing should be looked down on. But what have we done to men? Where is there an International Men's Day? Where is there, a National Men's Day? There's a National Women's Day, and I think that's in August. But Tucker Carlson is doing a series about men and what's happening to the males in this nation, and probably globally, but they're really talking about this nation. And if you look at all the things that have gone on, and that's why I thought it was so interesting that it's a socialist party that pushed this International Women's Day here in America. Because it is the demeaning of women, really. It demeans women and just kind of puts it in a little box. Well, if you're not doing this, if you're not getting a job and doing this on your own and running your own business or blah, 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 then you're not a real woman if you decide to stay home and be a housemaker, a homemaker, or a mother, or whatever the case may be. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. I'm going to just say a couple more things about this topic about male and female, just because it's. Oh no, she's
Good grief.
She's giving me the sigh.
Hurry up.
But they're doing this series on Tucker Carlson, and it's of great interest to me because I raised boys. And so I do know that I didn't raise any girls, so I don't have that to compare with other than I am female. So I know they were totally different than I am. My brothers were totally different than I was, and than I am. And I know that they have a different way of looking at things, and they are a little more aggressive. As a rule, they're a little more aggressive, a little more daring, and they like to take charge. And when you got 5 of them in the house, plus their father, you're kind of outnumbered. But they were talking about different things, and I know that I'm not a person that believes in bullies, but you got to teach your kids not to back down, too. And I remember my boys fought all the time, Melody. They were really close together, and they fought constantly, just drove their mother nuts. And now you know what's wrong with me. And I was in getting some of them out of the nursery at church one time, and the woman that was watching them in there, she was just talking about how blessed I was, and I kind of rolled my eyes around, and she says, you just look at this. She says, these little boys here, when they grow up, they've got to get out. She says this is all a part of the way they are. And when they grow up and they get out in the world, they have to fight the world to protect and care for their families. And this is all a part of who they are. And, they have turned out to be those kind of men, and I'm very proud of them. But, so much of this women's movement stifles what the male role is to be in the family. And it's not a bully. It's not somebody that pushes people around or bosses them and it's his way or the highway. The man and woman work together when they're raising kids. It's tag team time. But, my husband knew more about what those boys needed, especially when they got in their teenage years, than I did. And so I'm kind of interested in this series. They had a series years and years ago on Good Morning America about violence, boys and violence, and I actually wrote an article about that. I'm going to have to dig that old article out. But anyway, I am proud to be a woman. And it's International Women's Day, and I could care less about that. I'm proud to be a woman every day. I like who I am. God created me to be who I am, and that's it. But did you know on Amelia Earhart, you mentioned her, that they think they might have found her remains?
Yes.
So, Anyway, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. There was a university back in 1940, physician D.W. Hoodless, that had conducted 7 measurements on the human remains and concluded that they belonged to a man. The bones discovered by a British expedition on the island of Niku Moraro were later discarded, and because there have been other times that bones have been found and so forth. But basically what they're doing, based on precise measurements of Earhart's humerus and radius lengths from a photograph, they are concluding that until definite evidence is presented that the remains are hers. So they until somebody disproves it, they're saying that they have found her remains. So it's kind of interesting. This was the when she went missing. I believe it was the biggest, the largest, and the most expensive search and rescue effort by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard in American history. So, and I guess that still stands. So
probably so. Yeah. I know it was a big deal. I mean, and it is a big deal. It was a big deal then. It's a big deal now. So yeah. Okay.
So they're likely, not 99%, but there's still that 1% chance. So.
All right. We have a caller. We have Joe in Arkansas. Joe, what's on your mind today?
Well, I've got 2 items I'd like to bring up right quick. First of all, concerning Women's Day, Aaron Russo, the famous movie producer, said a few years ago that he had once had a conversation with Nick Rockefeller, and he said that Nick Rockefeller asked him, "What do you think women's liberation is all about?" So Aaron Russo said, "Well, it's about women being able to have whatever career they want, equal pay for equal work, that kind of thing." And Nick Rockefeller said to Aaron Russo, "No, you're an idiot. Here's what women's liberation is really all about." He said that we saw that only half the population, generally the men, was out working and paying income taxes. We wanted the other half of the population, and we saw that half the adult population was generally staying home, raising the children, and not paying income taxes. So we wanted the women out there working and paying income taxes also. So that's one interesting bit of information on this subject. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was I heard Melody say that Trump's tariffs will tend to weaken the dollar. And when somebody says something like that, I tend to like to not just take somebody's say-so for it, but read things out and try to figure out why they say what they say. And what I could come up with on my own reasoning was that I would think that Trump's tariffs would tend to make us somewhat more independent and self-sufficient as a country, and therefore there would be somewhat more circulation of the money for the economy within the country rather than it hemorrhaging out of the country as it tends to do when we have the free trade so much. And so with less hemorrhaging of money out of the country, there would be less demand, I would think, to increase the money supply by borrowing, and this would tend to make the dollar stronger, I would think. And the other thing was, if we do tend to have somewhat more of a self-sufficient, independent economy because of Trump's tariffs, this would tend to somewhat lessen the demand to weaken our dollar so that our exports are cheaper for other countries to buy because we wouldn't be quite so much dependent on exports. But so for those two reasons, I would think that Trump's tariffs would tend to strengthen the dollar. So I wanted to ask Melody, would you please explain, clearly step by step so that those of us that don't spend all our time dealing with financial matters can understand why Trump's tariffs will weaken the dollar?
Well, you kind of have a little bit of a tone to your voice and so forth, Joe. So, I'm not quite sure.
For information. Good God, you have to criticize everything.
All righty, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Well, there are a lot of financial, what do you call them? Universities or think tanks. That's what I want to say. Think tanks that are definitely against this tariff. And I was going to do some reading on some of them because I'm kind of. I'm like you said yesterday, I think we got to take this wait and see attitude. And I do think that it's meant to do what Joe is saying. I think that's what it's meant to do. And then you also mentioned yesterday that we're in a little different global atmosphere than what we were before when we had the tariffs many years ago. And, of course, a tariff is a tax. I understand that. There is an article about one of the industries here in the United States, steel industry, going to open up its plant and start up progress again or production again in, I believe it's in Illinois. It's an Illinois plant. And where I would think that would help domestically, we would be able to get our steel domestically cheaper, more readily. Will that hurt us in the tariffs as we trade, export? Will that hurt as we export? I'm kind of like you. I'm going to take a wait and see. I don't believe all of these that say it's going to be the worst thing that ever happened, and I don't believe everything is going to be just rosy and peachy keen either.
Well, I think with the way I see it, government wants a weaker dollar. We're going to get a weaker dollar. If the tariffs, and it comes back to our monetary system, if we didn't have a fiat currency, then I possibly could agree with Joe. But we don't. The government needs inflation. The Trump administration is an advocacy. They believe in a weaker dollar. He's said it before. He doesn't like the way China manipulates their currencies. So not only do, and whether we have a trade war or not remains to be seen, even Steve Mnuchin, even with the recent, if I recall correctly, in the Davos meetings, he had said, well, weaker dollar is great. And then we've seen pressure. Now, maybe on a longer term basis, you can see maybe if the U.S. is stronger, that you could see a little more strength in the dollar. But, I mean, we've already lost 95% of our purchasing power of the dollar. So, so I think we live in a world that old economics, the theories, sometimes just don't apply, or people expect knee-jerk reactions to everything. And we don't get those and if those knee-jerk reactions doesn't happen, well, then they're wrong. Well, that's not true. Sometimes we get knee-jerk reactions that are totally opposite of what should happen, and sometimes we don't get those look at gold. Mm-hmm. Gold from Duffy, the CME exchange, has said that gold should be trading at $5,000 or $6,000 today, and that was in last July, based on the geopolitical uncertainties and our debt. So you look at the most underpriced item in the world, and that really is gold, underpriced. So, and sometimes a weaker dollar doesn't necessarily mean that import prices must rise and competition must fall. And you're right, if consumers buy more U.S. goods than foreign goods, you might see what Joe explained. But then again, with that fiat currency truly dictates, I believe, whether we have a weaker dollar over a stronger dollar. I mean, sure, you can look at the index and see it go stronger, but does that really mean we have a stronger dollar?
Well, I have another question, and then we do have another caller. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But just popped in my mind, everybody's got these fiat dollars. So everybody's dealing with this inflation. So we're not the only nation that's struggling and hurting. And if we put the tariffs on them, they'll put tariffs on us on something else. I mean, it does go into a trade war. I don't think that's 100% bad. You know, you should eventually get some lower prices. I don't know if it's all, I'm not an economist, so
the problem.
It doesn't all.
I mean, personally, we already, and I saw somebody make the statement, and I agree with them. We already are in a currency war. We're already in a trade war.
Well, I kind of thought that too. Isn't that what it's all about, really?
That's what it's all about.
That's what competition is.
Yeah, the people of the United States have become accustomed to low prices. We're an economy that's based on 70% consumerism. And when you have prices that begin to rise, sure, people who don't go out and buy anything, yeah, they don't care. If people don't, I mean, we all have budgets. So those who don't buy anything, yeah, who cares? But those that do, and you see rising prices, yeah, they're not going to like it. We've exported our inflation to China for a lot of years. So now we have, and I get, competition. How soon do you think this competition is going to turn around? Do you think all this competition is going to be here tomorrow? Do you think that the world moves that quick? We're removing regulations from all these banks, to help. So perhaps it does move a little bit faster. But we all know what banks do to us. That's a good thing, isn't it? So, I mean, all of our problems come from the banks. So now we're really opening the doors that they can do even more, and because it just repeats itself. And so, when I talk tariffs, I'm not... And I'm looking at both sides. And if you can't look at both sides, or the possibilities of both sides, how can you come to any conclusion with what's right or wrong? And because, it's a wait-and-see approach, and it's not I'm not targeting the administration. And that's what a lot of people think I'm doing. If, that I'm all of a sudden saying bad things about Trump. Well, it's not about Trump. It's about what's happening. It's about the tariffs. It's about Obamacare. It's about the tax reform. If you can't discuss this, then we're basically just like the Democrats are and any other politician. And that's what we're here for. We're here to discuss things. And we're here to, and so just because I talk about I don't believe that the tax reform is going to be beneficial to most people in this country.
Well, in the long run. It may be on a month-to-month or paycheck-to-paycheck, you'll see a little difference. But in the long run.
That's always our problem. We just look at today. We don't look at the future.
And that's the same issue with the minimum wage. When everybody wants to raise the minimum wage, it's what I want this minute, right now. I want to raise. But in the future, it doesn't do them any good.
Doesn't do them any good.
Doesn't do them any good.
And you can hear the arguments on both sides. But again, we're back to reality. Yeah. What is the reality of it? Well, hey, minimum wage sounds great. Sounds like all the tax reform sounds great. People are going to have more money in their pocket, and they can go out and spend it and everything like that. And wages will go up and, all this money's going to funnel down. Well, if I've already reported on, I don't think I've reported on this program, where the corporate buybacks for this year is going to be almost $1 trillion. Where do you think that money's coming from? That's from all that repatriation money that was supposed to come into this country and go into our economy and trickle down to the workers. Is that going to happen? Not to the degree that's been promised. You know, cutting corporate rates from 35% to 21%. So, you know, sure, it's going to help to some degree. And my question is, if we already have a strong economy, we already have our employment down to 4.1, and they're talking about 3%, why is there such a big need to grow? Hey, if we're having a great economy, wages are rising, inflation is in check, well, you know, things seem to be pretty good. Why all the focus all of a sudden? So,
because it's never enough. It's never enough. Never enough.
Or is it because of desperation?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we definitely have that. And we definitely have the United States has definitely been at has been at a disadvantage with the NAFTA and CAFTA and GATT and the free trade issues. We've definitely taken the raw end of that deal. And I think Trump does want to fix that, and we'll just have to see if his recipe is going to be the one that makes it right, or if it's going to make it worse. Or it's, you know, like you said, we're already competition in the marketplace. That already exists. That's what's not there in healthcare, and that's why your healthcare is so expensive, and it's getting worse because they're removing the competition. And
I mean, what I say about Trump is kudos to Trump, because it has created discussions.
Absolutely.
And that is a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have to agree, and I don't think, I might think things might not work, but kudos to Trump for bringing these items into the forefront.
It's been bold and brazen, that's for sure.
So,
let's go to Neil. Neil from Missouri, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing all right. And I was calling about this Amelia Earhart deal.
Oh, okay.
Good.
I had a buddy that was. I've got some. I had a buddy who fought in World War II in the South Pacific. And after he got bayoneted by the Japanese, and after he recovered, he wasn't fit for actual combat duty, so they put him to investigating the disappearance of Amelia Earhart. As the U.S. would force the Japanese off these islands, he would go in and talk to the islanders and find out if they'd seen her, knew anything about her. You know, this white woman would be, unusual in the South Pacific at that time. And he finally ran onto an island where he got a hold of a native and told him about that she had been picked up, pulled in out of the sea by the Japanese on this island that was, a Japanese-occupied island. Now, this is prior to World War II, but the Japanese were preparing for war, and they suspected her of being a spy, flying an aircraft through the area that they controlled on these occupied islands, and so they kept her in this internment camp on this island, and then when they were forced off the island, of course, they fled, but he talked to a lady, a native, who had helped nurse Amelia Earhart. She'd been injured in the crash. She crashed just off the island. Her plane ran out of fuel, and she couldn't quite make it to the island. So I believe she had a co-pilot, but they never recovered him. They just recovered her. And they were holding her as a potential spy, but she eventually died of her wounds, and they buried her somewhere there on the island. Now, he could never find out where the grave site was exactly on the island. But that was his official report to his superiors. That's what he had discovered in all of his investigations. And now, he didn't cease his investigation at that time. They kept him searching. And he went to other islands, but he found no other evidence of her existence anywhere except on that one island. So if they recovered these bones from in that area or on that island, it may very well be her.
Interesting.
Wow. When I was recently in D.C., I went to the Smithsonian and I saw the replica of her plane. And I couldn't even imagine having to go up in that plane that she was in and do what she did. And it was amazing.
Not what we're used to today.
Yeah, an amazing woman, an amazing person.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting some interesting information that most people don't have, and I only have it because this guy was a buddy of mine. He was an old World War II vet, and he talked about his experiences in the war, and that's one of the things he was involved in. And he was fully convinced that he had found the right island, and that she was buried somewhere on that island. It's just without the Japanese, the whole camp, of course, evacuated as the Americans approached during World War II. So, and it wasn't clear to him whether she actually died of her injuries or they executed her. So he wasn't clear on that point. He couldn't get any confirmation one way or the other. But that she was dead, they were, that was, he was pretty sure that's what had happened. She died there on an island. That's where she was left.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. Well, we talk about prices going up, and I have this little article about the United States Postal Service. They're getting a bailout, and it could hike the postal rates to 41% in the next 5 years. It's really going to hurt the magazine publications that use the Postal Service, the snail mail all the time, and it's I didn't know if you had seen anything on that or not, but it's going up again.
It's interesting. They raised it, and then they lowered it, and now they're raising it again. But where they really have raised their costs are the registered and insured shippings, and what we use. I can remember we used to be able to ship registered and insured for $8. Now you're looking at $25, $30 per package, and they just keep, and that's but they do a great job with the registered and an insured U.S. mail. And the post office overall, there's some areas in the country that I have issues with, their hubs and so forth. They're just, just kind of makes you wonder what they do all day. But for the most part, what the post office moves, for the postage that we mail, a letter for it, it is kind of extraordinary, considering the amount of mail that is moved on a daily basis.
Interesting. Anyway, I just happened to see that, and I thought I saw the bailout part of it, and it says the Postal Regulatory Commission is proposing the publishers' postal rates increase by an estimated average of 34 to 41% over the next 5 years. So it's going to go up. I hear music. We're heading into a break. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann. In the morning, we're powerful women, and we're proud of who we are, and it doesn't have to be on International Women's Day. We are not socialists. Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. 717-300-1218. 717-300-1218, and we will be right back.
The Civil War did not end slavery, but it did put over 8 million black and white Southern.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis. as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. I have another little topic here that I actually wanted to kind of weave it into the International Women's Day. And that is Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has killed 7.6 million children since 1973. As the pro-life movement prepares for its 45th annual March for Life, here's a number the liberal media are not likely to report. Planned Parenthood has committed 7.6 million abortions since Roe v. Wade. Says America's largest abortion provider released its 2016-2017 annual report, and according to the report and former ones, plus numbers supplied by pro-life groups, Planned Parenthood has been responsible for the death, again, 7.6 million babies since 1973 to 2017. And it's got charts on this article. It's got everything here. But I'm thinking, go back to this number 3 on the Women's International Women's Day, and it was the Socialist Party of America that prompted it. And here we had in 73, and of course, abortion versus Roe versus Wade, and abortion. We think of women, they have just messed everything up as far as male and female and the genders and the role of the genders. And I'm not saying every woman should be married, and I'm not saying every woman should be a mother. But in the realm of things, that is kind of, the animalistic role. I mean, that is how that's how we grow in population. Of course, they don't like that. I'm looking at this article, and they've got a picture of an ultrasound baby. And somebody recently sent me a picture of an ultrasound of his wife. And tears just welled up in my eyes because she's not very far along. This was a total surprise to them. It's a natural thing. And you can see 3 little babies. 3 separate sacs, 3 little babies. They're going to have triplets. And I cannot understand why we don't celebrate life instead of celebrating Women's Day or National Women's or International Women's Day. But this nation has murdered 7.6 million babies since 1973. And I don't think that's something that women should be celebrating.
No, and you know what? There was a report out where the Utah House passed, in relation to this, they're going to, they passed a bill outlawing abortion of babies with Down syndrome last week.
Absolutely.
So the bill now awaits final approval from the Utah Senate, and but it has its legislative sessions end tomorrow night. So So the bill was House Bill 205. It was dubbed the Down Syndrome Non-Discrimination Abortion Act, and it passed the State House February 5th. So,
how do you eliminate?
Yeah.
How do you eliminate birth defects? How do you eliminate some of these things? You abort the baby. Yeah. And that's what March of Dimes has promoted.
Yeah.
We used to look at March of Dimes as really a march for life, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And it's just, it's just astonishing to me that we sit here and celebrate women and then we use them. They are lied to, they are used.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
It's Thursday, March 1st, AD 2018. This is The World View in 5 minutes, heard at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. The highest court of Malaysia ruled Tuesday that Muslims cannot officially convert to other religions, including Christianity, without approval from the Islamic Sharia court system. The federal court denied the hearing of 4 Christian converts from Islam seeking to publicly identify with Christianity on their papers. Please pray for the believers in Malaysia, where converts from Islam are treated as lawbreakers and persecuted by their family and community. Wycliffe Associates, the Bible translation ministry, hopes to have a Bible in every language by the year 2025. The ministry's president, Dr. Bruce Smith, said interest in Bible translation has, quote-unquote, gone viral with 193 completed New Testaments in the last 3 years, and over 600 new Bible translation requests for 2018. Smith said, quote, "This is at a pace and at a scope around the world that is really unprecedented in the history of the world," end quote. Paul wrote in Acts 13:47, "For so the Lord has commanded us, I have set you as a light to the Gentiles, that you should be for salvation to the ends of the earth." Scandals are now sweeping the aid industry after a former United Nations executive claimed UN workers have committed an estimated 60,000 rapes in the last decade. Britain's Department for International Development recently admitted up to 4 staff members were reported for sexual harassment last year. Meanwhile, a top official with the UN Children's Fund has stepped down after complaints from female employees about unwanted advances. And Peter Newell, former Children's Fund consultant and UK anti-spanking activist, was sentenced to 6 years in prison this month for sexually abusing a boy in the 1960s. Galatians 6:7-8 says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life." Sadly, the Oregon House Euthanasia Bill 4135 has now passed both the House and the Senate and is on its way to the governor's desk. Since they expect the governor will sign it, David Collada of Oregon Right to Life told the Worldview that they are most concerned about those who do not have advocates who care about them.
If someone in Oregon, after this bill becomes law, has dementia or Alzheimer's, and they have people taking care of them who are responsible for their healthcare decisions, who care about them truly, they should be fine. But the concern has always been those people who are vulnerable, who don't have advocates that care, who maybe an heir is responsible, who just doesn't really want, grandma or whoever to stay around, right? those are the people that are at risk.
A memorial service was held yesterday for the late evangelist Billy Graham, who died last week, becoming the fourth private citizen and first religious leader to be honored at the U.S. Capitol. President Donald Trump and congressional leaders attended. Trump honored Graham as, quote, an ambassador for Christ who reminded the world of the power of prayer and the gift of God's grace, end quote. South Carolina legislators introduced the Marriage and Constitution Restoration Act this month, defining marriage between one man and one woman, and calling homosexual arrangements a form of, quote-unquote, parity marriage. The measure would, quote, prohibit the state from respecting, endorsing, or recognizing any parity.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.